So, hi guys, as continue to Miss Agravante's report. By the way, I am Wawidi Agustin and we will tackle about what stakeholders can do or kung ano pa ba yung pwedeng gawin para maging successful ang pagtanggap sa inclusive education. So, the right-based approach to educational programming insists that no right can exist without a corresponding governmental obligation. So we all know naman 'di ba na ang government is parang siya yung brain ng society natin. So sila yung nagpro-protect, sila yung gumagawa ng program for its people. For example, sa health issues, andun yung DOH. Sila yung gumagawa ng program or sila yung gumagawa ng yun na nga ng mga program na naka-inline sa mga health issues. For example, this pandemic, sila yung naka-duty for this. Then and connection with this, yung sa inclusive education is ang DepEd. So, kumbaga, hindi pwedeng maging educational program ng isang school lang ang inclusive education without the help or without the consult na galing sa government to make sure na yung program na yon is hindi siya pang isang tao lang. Kumbaga, applicable siya sa lahat ng yung parang walang natatapakan or yung walang nadi-discriminate. So, thus, governments and communities are starting to understand how they are accountable to children with additional needs and in fulfilling their right to education and providing access to quality education that is also safe, welcoming, and inclusive. Yun na nga. So, kumbaga dito is na-realize na ng government and ng communities na it's about time na para maging open-minded na sila to create this kind of program para sa mga taong with additional needs like ng mga person with disabilities na kumbaga this program is also help them na to protect them na pag once sumapak sila sa school is safe sila and welcome sila na walang discrimination na magaganap. Legally defining terms and formalizing a system for setting up inclusive school in areas where there are none to begin with ensures uniformity, universality, consistency of implementation, and eventual success of inclusion in the country. Yun na nga, kumbaga, nililigal na ng government or ginagawa na nilang law of every school na tanggapin yung gantong program. And there are system or formal system para maging set up na talaga ng isang school yung gantong educational program, which is ang inclusive education. The following are some steps stakeholders can take to create inclusive cultures. And ang una dito is set the parameters for inclusion. The government has identified key people and professions and highlighted important factors leading to the success of inclusive education. So, yun na nga, di ba? Is ang government is hina-highlight na nila or pinipili na nila kung sino-sino yung mga dapat kasali sa gantong programa or para maging successful talaga at saka tuloy-tuloy yung flow ng program. And kung kailangan pa ba nilang mag-consult sa another sector ng government. Then kung kailangan pa ba ng teacher ng training and compensation, yun na nga, 'di ba? Yung placement process, yung committees, stopping and responsibilities, kung baga hinahati-hati na talaga para tuloy-tuloy na and para maging successful talaga yung inclusive education. This clearly show not just an attempt to centralize inclusive practices, but an initiative to make the welfare and development of children with additional needs the responsibility of all. These are also consistent with that UNESCO pushes for in terms of getting every stakeholders involved. So, yun na. So, yung una-una is, 'di ba, parang sineset na ng government lahat. Then dito is para para hindi na good siya, hindi siya attempt na lang. Kumbaga parang program na talaga siya, parang ipa-practice na talaga siya, hinay-hinayon na maging na talaga siya, o, maging program na talaga siya ng every school. Then para na talaga siya, para malaman na talaga kung ano yung mga dapat gawin, kung ano yung responsibility, kung may responsibility din ba yung mga person with disability na involved dito sa program. Then
Since Mr. Agustin already discussed about what stakeholders can do, the following are some steps stakeholders can take to create inclusive culture. First is set the parameters for inclusion, which already discussed by Mr. Agustin earlier. Second is build key people, and last, the identity and eradicate barriers. So today, let's focus on the build key people. In this discussion, the government recognizes the needs for teacher training both in the special need education and general education level. It also pushes for the use of evidence-based teaching frameworks. So, why government recognizes the needs for teacher training? Para mabigyan ng tulong ang mga estudyante at makapag-access sa mga materials na naka-align sa kanilang mga field. At ang pinakamahalaga ay ginawa ang panawagang ito upang ipagpatuloy ang pananaliksik at paggawa ng mga patakaran to be initiated by agencies such as the Department of Education upang mas malaman nila yung mga proseso at malaman nila kung ito ba ay na-fit dun sa mga pangangailangan ng mga estudyante na may mga karagdagang pangangailangan. This is the important factors that every nation has to constantly revisit as the need of students across continent. True similar would have nuances depending on where they reside. So educational frameworks cannot just be lifted and copy-paste, which the expectation that what works for one country will work for another. So according to Unesco 2005, state that clarity of purpose, realistic goals, motivation, support, resource, and an evaluation of policies and practices all contribute to a successful shift toward inclusion. So build key people, so it means the evidence-based teaching frameworks help us to identify the needs of the student. That is why the government recognizes the needs for teacher training, so that the teacher will be able to provide the needs of students both in the special need education and general education level. Thank you.
Identify and eradicate barriers. UNESCO Guide for Inclusion 2005 advocates for the identification and removal of obstacles that have to do with transforming prevailing attitudes and values on a systematic level. So, in UNESCO Guide for Inclusion, sinabi dito is to identify. So, identifying those people who have disabilities and with special needs, malalaman natin siya through their physical appearance or the way they behave and interact with other people. So in that case is we can really see the difference with others. And being different is we need also to eradicate those barriers. So ano yung mga barriers na makikita sa kanila? Is dun yung tinatawag na discrimination, hesitation because of their abilities, and yung mga limitation na meron sila, at saka yung privilege nila to have formal education na inclusive para sa kanila, and we need to have space for them, diba? And then by transforming our attitudes, the way we perceive. The Philippine government seems to be in consonance with this aspect in the light of its existing legislative policies that ground the undeniable importance of inclusion. So as we know, the Philippine government established the Philippine law for PWDs na pinafocus yung kanilang privilege and the policies that will protect their rights. Sa pamamagitan nun is nabibigyan sila ng halaga, ng importansya sa ating bansa. And they also portray a rule na meron silang space to improve their skills, to show the talents they have. Meron silang room for improving their self and enhancing their self-confidence and self-identity as a person. And meron silang rule na ginagampanan kahit ano man yung differences na meron sila. And it is also continuously reorganizing structures in education and implementing programs that highlight the need for primary stakeholders like the school, the parents, and other policymakers to acquire more understanding and capacity building to manage an inclusive environment. So, in managing the inclusive environment, is kailangan merong contribution or merong strategies in education, especially to the stakeholders, to the organization, and especially to the teachers that we're going to teach the child who have special needs and acquiring the program for um, specialization between the diversities that we have. So you're reforming the strategies, the techniques, and curriculums as a guide in teaching those kind of students and the parents. There is no hesitation and refuse sa special education, sa right ng bata na to learn kahit mayroong disabilities o special needs yung anak nila and other policy makers. So, pwede pa siyang madagdagan yung privilege na meron yung mga PWDs natin. At saka madagdagan yung rights nila as a person. Mas madagdagan yung opportunity nila when it comes to education, jobs, and other part in the society. So, that will be all.